You're listening to the Primal Happiness Show, a podcast dedicated to helping you thrive in this crazy modern world. Every Tuesday, we explore the nature of how our minds really work, what exactly the human animal requires to thrive, and how we can live happier and more fulfilling lives. If you're new here and haven't yet taken our free class, then there's no better place to get a jump start on reclaiming your primal happiness. It's where we'll guide you step by step through our antidote to today's modern world. Simply head on over to primalhappiness.co/antidote to get the free class and discover how to thrive without having to move to a planet that's not so crazy as ours. But now, your host, Lian Brook-Tyler.
Hello, my beautiful people. A huge warm welcome back to the show. In today's crazy modern world, men and women are living shallow, disconnected, and unfulfilling lives. So we created the path for those who are ready to reclaim their primal power and actualize their deepest gifts. And very exciting news, we have our brand new offering opening for enrollment this week. It's called Waking the Wild Sovereign. I've mentioned it a couple of times in the past couple of shows, and it's out this week. It's very much the pinnacle of our work. We've brought together everything we found most powerful with the people we work with and put it all into this gorgeous crucible. It really is the deepest, most intimate, most impactful way you can work with us. And when I say us, you actually get myself and Jonathan with this. So nothing like anything else we've offered before. This is the bomb. So we'll be sharing all the details on that in the next day or so on our social media accounts, on our website and everything else. But if you're already feeling that this is calling you and you don't want to miss out, then you can go right ahead and book a free exploration call with myself and Jonathan. You can do that at primalhappiness.co/exploration or drop us an email at support@primalhappiness.co and we'll come straight back to you with all the details as soon as they come out. And now for this week's show. This episode is our monthly show called All the Everything, and it's where I jam on an eclectic mix of topics. It also airs live on Facebook on the first Friday of every month at 10 a.m. GMT. This is where you can get up close and personal with me, get inside my head, and hear what I'm up to and thinking about. So in this episode, I shared what I've been up to in the past month, i.e. what I've been consuming and creating. And then I dive deep into the topic, how to be in alignment even when life gets pressured. Or put another way, handling pressure, specifically Christmas pressure, without losing yourself in the process. And if you feel like you've already read all the articles and listened to all the podcast episodes on this topic of Christmas stress, handling Christmas stress, being more graceful under Christmas pressure, I promise you this is a very different take, as I hope you've come to expect on this show. Sounds good? Great, let's jump in. Welcome to December's All the Everything. And it's a timely topic. And I was just sharing with the people that are joining me for the making of, this is feeling quite meta already, that I had a bit of resistance to this topic. It felt really like I was being called to do. I don't mean called in this kind of big grand way, as in like people were just suggesting it and it was showing up everywhere as something that would be worthwhile talking to. But I really didn't want to do yet another piece of content on that topic of, how do we have a calmer, more peaceful, less stressful Christmas? Like there's a bunch of stuff out there. I'm sure lots of it's good. And it just felt like, I don't want to kind of add my voice to that noise. Even if it's very worthwhile noise, I just didn't feel pulled to add my voice to that. And then I noticed, like, yeah, it's not just I'm not feeling it. I'm actually feeling real resistance to it. And for me, that's always a good sign. When I've got that level of resistance to something, it probably means there's something there for me. And so when I took a look, I realized that this entering into this topic from the point of view, and this is actually quite meta too, we'll get into this in a moment. It's given what we're about here at Primal Happiness, given what the show's about depth and wildness and magic and how we can get more in alignment with our souls. It's like, how do I talk about this topic and how do I guide people into this way of being from that place? Not just how do you kind of survive Christmas? How do you survive this busy period? How do you just make it more calm? But actually, how do you make it more soulful, more deep, more wild, more in discovery of who you really are? So that's why I've decided I'm going to talk about this topic. And the challenge feels like a juicy one. So if you're up for that kind of conversation, that's what we're going to be talking about. Before I dive into that, as ever, I like to begin with just sharing a bit of what I've been up to. And over the last few months, I've gravitated to doing it in this way of what I've been creating and what I've been consuming, which is something I like to be mindful of anyway. So it's quite a helpful way of looking at what I've been up to over the last month. So I'll start with what I've been consuming. And the main thing that came to mind was a massage that I had on Wednesday. And it was just absolutely, I mean, I love massages anyway, but this one was a particularly amazing one. It was a last minute cancellation. And so my regular massage therapist actually contacted me and said, I've got this, it was like an hour and a half massage, full body, hot stones. Do you want it? Like, hell yes. So that's how it came about. And it was amazing. And it's something, having a massage is something I aim to do monthly. It doesn't always happen. I don't always get round to, like, I have a monthly day off. And so my intention every month is to get organised to book it in. So I have got it my day off. I don't always get round to it. So I don't always have one a month. That is something that I'm very much intending to improve next year. But I do have them regularly at any rate. And after this particular one, it just happened that in that same day, there were kind of like other massage related things going on at the same time. For example, my friend Adam Quiney kind of then went off and booked his massage. I mean, he's someone who also really sees the benefit of having regular massage. So it may have been that he was going to anyway, and I just nudged him. I don't know. And then I had one of my clients who's just had a really full-on time. And it was clear that was also what her body was calling out for. So I recommended to her, hey, can you just try and find some time to fit in and have a massage, which she's doing. So I was like, yeah, this is actually kind of come to the surface as more than just it was a massage. And I brought it to the women who are currently doing Wake the Wild Feminine as, again, another way that we can prioritize our bodies, prioritize being in our bodies, prioritize pleasure, prioritize resensitizing, prioritize healing, prioritize relaxation. I mean, it's just one of those perfect things that brings so much together in this like just gorgeous package. And I appreciate that that's not always going to be something that you have the funds for. Massages can be expensive. I get that. And so if that's the case for you currently, find other ways. Like, I really do think it's that important. I'm almost like a massage evangelist this month. So some of the things I suggested to the women in Wake the Wild Feminine is, if you've got children or a partner, get them trained up, show them what feels like a good massage to you. My children, for whatever reason, love massaging me, so they don't really need asking twice. And yes, of course, it's not going to be as amazing and pleasurable as having a kind of full-on hour and a half massage by a professional, but it does have other elements that make it really, worthwhile receiving. Another thing is you may well have a friend, close friend probably would be best, who you can do some kind of resource sharing. It could be you actually swap massages, or it could be that you have a skill that you can offer her or him and they can offer you a massage in return. Personally, I think I've got probably at least 3 people in my close circle who are trained massage therapists. They're not actually even doing that now, but just at some point in their past, they trained to give massages. So I suspect if that's true for me, it's true for you too. I suspect you know some very good masseuses. And then finally, and this is something I did years ago actually, was you may well have a local college who train up beauty therapists, massage therapists, and they'll probably, if so, have some kind of like discounted evening or service way of basically getting massages from the trainee massage therapist, and you'll get it at a reduced rate. So go check that out. But the main thing is, if you're hearing something in this, if you're thinking, oh yes, that's what I can feel my body needs, go and make that happen. There will be a way you can make that happen for you. And what have I been creating this month? When I say this month, I mean the month has just gone. I always confuse this. I've got a very loose grasp on time. And half the time, I have no idea where I am. But when I say the last month, I mean November. And so it's been twofold. One, as I was just mentioning, we're in the throes of Waking the Wild Feminine at the moment. So that is very much a kind of creational process. It's not like it's, a course where it's all planned out and then I just have to kind of press a button and it gets rolled out. It's very much very intimate, very much being kind of created in the moment in response to where the women are, what I can see will be most powerful for them, what's showing up for me, just as kind of hits of intuition that I can suddenly see. I'll give you an example, actually. This Monday, I was planning to enter into circle with one myth and then realized, I think an hour before we were due to do so, that I just wasn't feeling it anymore. And I was feeling called to a completely separate myth, and which I'm familiar with, but I hadn't looked at for quite some time. And then when I went and reread that one, I was like, oh yes, that's the perfect one for today. So it's very creational in the delivery. Even the delivery doesn't sound quite right. It is just a very intimate, experiential experience. So it means like constant creation of the material, of the experiences. When I'm leading circle, when I'm very active in the private Facebook group for it. So it's just a very much a act of creation, which is part of the reason I love it so much. The other thing that I've been creating, and I say I, it's actually we, because it's Jonathan and I, we've been, oh my goodness, this is so exciting, creating the forthcoming Waking the Wild Sovereign. And I can only tell you a little bit about this, partly because we're just in the last kind of moments of deciding exactly what's going to be contained, how we're going to take people through this experience. What I can tell you is it's very much pulling together all of the most powerful elements of all of our work into this one experience. So this possibly will evolve over the months and years. At the moment, it's going to be a 3-month experience and as intimate as you can get. So if, for example, typically this is the way we do it. It's not set in stone, but typically we work this way. I typically coach women and Jonathan typically coaches men. With this experience, you'll get both of us. So, for example, if you were a woman and I would be your kind of main coach, but you would also get sessions with Jonathan, who would be able to bring other aspects, other elements into that experience for you. And vice versa, if you're a man and therefore Jonathan would be your main coach, you would also get sessions with me because I would be able to bring aspects into that Jonathan wouldn't. And so there's other aspects that we're kind of putting into this experience, some of which I kind of feel like I want to hold off and then we can kind of, here it is. Dun, 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 dun. But so excited about that. And the key thing of this has been really understanding that the most powerful work we've been doing over the last couple of years, and this is for us personally too. When I say work, I don't just mean kind of the work we are doing as work with clients. I mean very much our own work too, is uncovering our wildness. And I spoke about that quite a lot. If it wasn't last month or everything, it was the month before. I'll link to it. But I really talked about what I meant by wildness. But just suffice to say for the moment, it's about inner and outer wildness. And a kind of real thread of that is rooting down into our bodies and into our souls. And then the other aspect of that is really allowing our sovereign to rise. So that could be our king or our queen to rise. And what that gives to someone as that expansion happens is a real sense of trust in themselves, clarity of vision, greater depth and range across those other aspects of their psyche. So just as an example, and I'll probably touch on this a little bit more when I get to the main topic, for many of us, we're going to have aspects of our psyche that are in shadow. So we're going to be coming from a kind of shadow part of our psyche rather than the kind of like the light or the gift or the gold aspect. And so an example of that would be, and this very much goes on for me personally, it could be that we're very much coming from the shadow version of our lover, and that could be called the prostitute. So really making deals, negotiating our value and our what we really want, how we want to be in the world. We'll be thinking, oh, but if I do that, I'm going to lose that, or people are going to think badly of me. Therefore, I will stop valuing who I am and what I value in the world, and I'll kind of gag that, or I won't be that because of what that's going to cost me. And again, this is very human. Most of us are going to fall into patterns of that kind. But what I see more and more is as we rise into our sovereign, that gives us that power and that clarity to start to work on those other aspects of ourselves and bring them out of shadow, alchemize that energy into something that can be used and expressed in these like gorgeous, healthy ways. So that's why we're making this the focus of this particular offering, Waking the Wild Sovereign. Even the name thrills me. And again, it very much is an act of creation, both in terms of us working together to craft it now, but again, because it's going to be a very intimate, very experiential, very much feeling into that particular person, what's going to serve them. As we actually work with someone, that will be a very much an act of creation too. Anyway, so I'm not quite ready to tell you more about it, or even to say, if that's for you, get in touch. I mean, if you're hearing something in it, do get in touch. We're very close to being able to have conversations and actually enroll people into that experience, but not quite yet. So if you're hearing this, get in touch. Let's get a call in the diary, and then I'm almost certain in the next week we'll be ready to actually offer that to you if that is right for you. Absolutely isn't right for everyone. It's going to be for, I would say, particular people at a very particular point in their journey. And so you'll know if that's something that's starting to feel like, oh, yes, there's something in me that I'm feeling it kind of chime. I'm feeling like a chord that resonates. And you'll know that even more once we get into conversation and talk about what that will mean. So, yes, and it's just like, I can really feel my excitement bubbling at the moment. So I need to just put that to one side so I can refocus on the main topic for today's show, which is how to be in alignment even when life gets pressured. And as I say, this is very specifically around the pressures of December, Christmas, the holidays. But honestly, everything I'm saying could totally apply to any point in life where you're feeling that kind of pressure rise. So, don't think this is kind of like just for Christmas. It really isn't. Although I'm sure this will be particularly helpful if you're someone who is experiencing a lot of pressure this month. And as I was saying earlier, this isn't just what I'm going to be talking about here. I don't just want to offer you ways to make that, I don't know, more peaceful, graceful, whatever. Whilst, there's clearly value there, I really want you to offer this to you as a portal, as in this period, Christmas, the pressure of Christmas. I really want to invite you into how you can experience this as a portal in which to go deeper, to really discover who you are, what serves you, what you're here to do, and how you can be more of that. Because I truly believe that's what this experience can be. No pressure on me there to deliver. So let me just have a quick look through the notes that I made, because there's a lot here, and I want to kind of not just hit you with a whole ton of it without breaking down some key pieces first, because there is a lot here. So what I would say first of all, and this, I probably say something similar to this on every show I do. Until we have a sense of who we really are, and when I say who we really are, I mean, I guess at a soul level, like who we really are when it's all stripped away, when our conditioning, and that could be our cultural conditioning, that could be our family conditioning, when we're kind of coming from the healthy aspect of ourselves rather than from shadow, when we're in contact with that we are able, and I'm saying that almost like that's a place we get to and is fixed. It isn't, but the more we're able to make contact with that deepest part of ourselves, it then becomes so much easier, so much clearer to live from that place, to be from that place, to make choices from that place. So I'm saying this not to say, okay, so the first step is to go off, find yourself for a year, then come back, listen to this, ready for next Christmas. It means that, firstly, that really needs to be a priority. And when I say need, that means need to, if you want to live a kind of deep, expansive, wild, magical life. If you don't, that's fine. This show's probably not for you, so you probably wouldn't be listening to it in the first place. So firstly, just understanding like that is a priority, to have that desire to know yourself. Absolutely has to be there in the first place. And again, that doesn't mean you then need to kind of like, okay, put life on hold, I'm going to go do that. This is something that is very much something we can discover in life, and which is, again, the very reason I'm saying this holiday period can be a portal for that. You can use all experiences as a way to find out more about yourself and to deepen into that experience of yourself. Of course, there's lots and lots of other ways, and I've probably talked about them on every show we've done. And I'll leave you with some at the end, some ways that aren't just that kind of moment-to-moment discovery, but ways that you can actually go off and intentionally create containers for deepening into the awareness of yourself. So with that said, with that kind of like, let's just know that we're saying everything from now on from a place of the overarching intention here is that you know yourself. You get really intimate about who you really are. And that's something you care about, actually. I'd say that's another piece to it. I don't know if they could be separated, but the most powerful place we can embark on this discovery of who we are from is from a place of love and appreciation, like knowing that we are magic, knowing that there's something really worth discovering there. I mean, I see that over and over again. I can speak from that personally. The more I've got to know myself, the more I'm like, oh my goodness, like how lucky am I that I'm this person in this lifetime and I have these gifts and I get to do this. So, and I see that over and over again with the women that I work with. But when you embark on this discovery of who you are, you will discover gold, I promise you. So from that place, and again, when I'm saying from that place, from that understanding, let's say, if that's how we're approaching life, not from the place of fully understanding who you are, you're going to get clearer and clearer on your values, on your priorities. And if that at the moment isn't clear for you, one of the ways that you can do that is, first and foremost, is just to see what are the number one things you're complaining about. And again, let's keep this right now focused on this Christmas period. What are the things you're complaining about? And that could be just internally, maybe that you're never actually speaking these complaints out. Where are you feeling your needs aren't being met? Where are you feeling that you're not getting help? Where are you feeling resentful? So that's sometimes a easier way to make contact with your desires, your values, your priorities, is to flip it and first of all see, okay, so I can really get that these are the places that I'm feeling especially resentful or overwhelmed or whatever it might be. From there, it's much easier to notice the desire in that. So let's try and think of an example here. Right, this is quite a broad example, but it's the one that's come to mind for me personally at the moment. So one of my real priorities, one of my real values is to be in the world, be in experiences, moment to moment, every day, in a way that allows me to stay in my body in a way that feels good. And so when I say stay in my body, I mean the converse to that would be feeling disassociated, very much sort of coming from my head, being very kind of focused on my thoughts, on logic, on just dealing with whatever's going on out there. And so that's the opposite of my desire, which is to be very much in my body, in the experience, feeling the pleasure and the beauty of the moment. And so past Christmases, maybe not last year, because this has obviously been a kind of deepening journey for me, but certainly Christmases prior to that, very much I would have been experiencing them from that disembodied place. Very much a kind of like, how can I just get through this, get this done? And realizing like that, absolute, like that's a kind of good example of a complaint. The complaint there for me would have been, I feel like I'm just actually not present and enjoying Christmas in this kind of embodied sensual way. I'm experiencing it from this kind of anxious place, this kind of heady, disembodied place. And I don't want that anymore. So it's clear the reverse of that is that desire to be in my body, to really fully experience all of the sensual pleasures. So and that's just an example. I've got more, and I'm sure you'll have more. When you really start to check in on what those complaints are and what's the underlying desire behind it, that's going to be clear. So then once you've got an understanding of like what's important to you, what are those values, what are those priorities, the next big question is, of course, how do you actually be in alignment with that? How do you stay true to that? And noticing also this is going to be, it's not probably going to be this like linear, okay, this is how I want to be, therefore I will just be that constantly. There's clearly going to be all kinds of challenges to that, which again can be taken as a way of deepening into your understanding of yourself, the places you're still being held in shadow, and places that you can kind of almost use that stress as a way to strengthen your sense of self, your resolve, however it might be in that particular moment. So knowing that's the case, your first task really, and this is often the case with anything that you want to alchemize, transform, change is first of all, just notice what your patterns are. So going back to my example where I was experiencing the holiday period from this kind of very disassociated, heady place, I could have, and this is now going back too far to give like really great like moment-to-moment examples, but it would be just to notice my patterns, notice the times where I'm choosing out of an embodied experience and choosing into this, I just need to get this done. I just need to be functional. I just need to do this, then do that, do that. Just notice those patterns. And that's not in a wrong-making way. As I always say, like the more compassionate we can be with ourselves, the more we're actually going to let ourselves see. So bring as much compassion and love as you can to this. Like you would have got into these patterns for very, very good reasons. We don't just create these patterns for no reason at all. It's the opposite. They're there in place for brilliant reasons. So first and foremost, just with love, notice those patterns. And then start to notice what you're now becoming a no to. So again, with the example of me coming from this kind of very disembodied, dissociated space, in that example, I would start to be able to notice, I'm a no to this now. I'm a no to allowing this, whatever pressure's going on in this moment, I'm a no to allowing that to take me out of my body. So again, not that you need to do anything about it, just notice your no's show up. That's like such a brilliant step in itself, just noticing, this is what I'm doing. I'm really noticing already there's a shift in what's okay for me. And as my brilliant friend Isis, she posted something this week, brilliant post, and she was actually talking about women and sex, but what she was saying, I think, applies everywhere. And she was saying something like, your yes is only as powerful, meaningful, whatever, as your no. So if you're never actually allowing yourself to say no, your yes actually isn't worth anything. It's just the kind of, it's not even a yes. It's just the default. So it's so powerful to get that a sense of, I'm a no to this. So that in itself sounds like nothing's changed yet, and it hasn't, but it's so important. Again, just being able to open our awareness, get some altitude, notice our patterns, notice how we're shifting in relationship to our patterns, that already is huge. And it isn't a step that typically can be jumped over. So really give yourself permission to spend time with that, to be really gentle with yourself through that, but just notice that such value in just being able to see what you usually do and where you currently experience that from, whether that's still okay for you or whether you're a no to it. Okay, right, let me just take a sip of my tea and just see where best to go next. Okay. Okay, so what to do from there? So I'm going to just talk about this from an archetypal perspective first, because I see that they are really seeing things through an archetypal lens really allows us to see how these are kind of universal patterns playing out. They're not us being kind of useless. Oh, poor me, look at me doing this again. They're very much archetypal patterns, universal patterns that show up for almost all of us. So that's part of the reason. There's other reasons too, but that in itself, I think, is a really powerful one. So as I explained earlier, when we're coming from shadow, we're going to be making our choices, deals, ways of being from that place. So I gave the example earlier of that prostitute, the shadow aspect of the lover, who is going to be saying, you know what? I notice that when this happens, this particular thing out there, when someone says something or this is required, I notice my pattern is to come out of, we'll use my example again. So I notice my pattern is, in response to that, to come out of my body into this kind of like heady, logical, how do I fix this place? I notice that I'm now a no to this. I notice that I don't want to choose into that experience anymore. And I notice there's going to be a price to pay. And that's the bit that we often forget. We forget there's going to be a benefit to the way we've been, and there's a cost to the way we've been. And there's usually going to be the same as we expand too. Doesn't mean we don't want it. Doesn't mean we're going to choose out of it, but just means like, let's get clear that we need to be with whatever the impact of that shift is. So again, I'll try and make this, I'm hoping I'm not talking too intangibly now. So I'm going to bring this down back to a practical example. So, this is actually is a example that shows up quite frequently for me when we have visitors. So, when we have people here to stay, which we do quite a lot, our family, hardly any of my family's local. So if we have family to visit, they usually stay here. And so if I can hear they're up, and this is obviously, again, quite often is the case for Christmas as well. Many of you will be having people to stay in your house at Christmas. So in the morning, I'll wake up and I'll obviously be able to hear that people are up and about already. And so coming from this disassociated, disembodied place, I will be making decisions that are, okay, I need to get up now because people are downstairs. They're going to be kind of wondering where I am. They're going to be wanting breakfast, coffee, whatever. So I'll get up now. Starting to notice the pattern there would be for me to start to notice, okay, I haven't even checked in with what's going on for me at the moment. I don't know how my body feels. I don't know what my body wants. And yet the pattern I've got here is to just choose out of that and go do the thing that needs to be done downstairs. So that's the first part, noticing that pattern. The next stage is to notice my no, like, do you know what? That doesn't feel good to me anymore. To not stay true to my own priority, my own value, which is to be embodied, be in my experience in my body. And I'm noticing that no longer feels good to me. I'm a no to that. So that's those kind of first two stages we talked about. The next part is to notice that there will be an impact of that. There'll be a consequence of that. So if I now decide to choose into my body, into that priority that for me, and again, I'm using this example of my being embodied as purely an example of something that's important to me. Yours might be very different. So just to really keep saying this. So for me to decide, actually, no, before I do anything, I'm going to take, just say 5 minutes and not rush downstairs. I'm going to take 5 minutes just to be in my body, feel what's going on for me, feel what it's asking for. That could be just to roll over and close my eyes for another 5 minutes. It could be to just lay there and dream. It could be, I don't know, to stroke my skin. It could be to, I don't know, ask my husband to bring me up a cup of tea. I don't know. It could be all sorts of things. So the first thing is just get really present to my experience, where my body is, what it's calling for, and then noticing there will be a price to pay for that. As in, by me choosing to do that, I know that there might be, again, we don't know for sure, but there may well be people downstairs that are thinking, where the hell is Lian? Why isn't she down here? And so I'm choosing in that example that I'm no longer for sale. My values are no longer for sale. Who I am, what I stand for, my priorities are no longer up for negotiation. It's so important for me to take that time to be in my body, to be fully in the experience of my body, that I know that the consequence of what anyone else might think about that is actually, it is a consequence, is something I'm going to need to be with and experience, but it's just not, doesn't even come close to that value I have of being in my body. So that's the first part. And again, I've made that sound like, oh, it's so easy. And again, this has taken work and years for me to get to that place. And again, it's not always as clear cut as that. I've given you this like perfect example where I've decided, yep, no, I'm not for sale. But that's what we're talking about here. Just really notice there's going to be, in that example, my prostitute wanting to make deals to keep me safe, to keep me liked. And then there's my lover who's calling me to expand, to rise into this sense of like, it's actually really important how I feel. It's really important how my body feels. That comes first. My values around that come first. Right. What else? So another part of this that I found increasingly helpful in all sorts of ways, actually, I think in any act of creation, but particularly when it's something like this, where there's a big forthcoming event and lots of things that need to be done for it. And this ties very much into what I was talking about us rising into our sovereignty. The more we have that sense of trust in ourselves, in our own power, the more we're able to trust. Do you know what? I don't yet know how exactly this is going to happen. I don't know quite yet how I'm going to do it all, but I have deep trust that I will. I know I've done it over and over again in the past. I know that this will happen. This will happen. I don't need to panic and worry. I'm not going to make it happen. I know I will. And that might sound really basic, but for me, every time I've like deep, and this isn't just me just saying the words in a kind of affirmation way. This is getting to a place where I do have that deep sense of trust in myself that, yeah, I get things done. You know, like I don't need to apply the shame and the pressure and the judgment of myself. I'll get it done. And linked to that is knowing that you will have, again, the more you get in touch with yourself, in touch with your soul, in touch with your body, you're going to get more and more hits of inspiration, more and more clarity of what's perfect for you. And so from that place, you're going to be taking not just action, not just, oh, I've plotted this out and therefore on Tuesday I need to, I don't know, order the food for Christmas Day, or on this day I need to go present shopping. You're going to be more and more able to take inspired action. So action that comes to you, bolt out the blue, idea in the moment. Oh my goodness, like the perfect thing would be to, I don't know, get that present, or to do the food this way, or to do this on this day, whatever it might be. And again, I'm sticking to the example of Christmas, but this applies to anything you are up to, anything you're creating. The more and more we get to know ourselves, the more we trust ourselves, the more we have that openness to inspiration, and then therefore taking action from that inspired place. The last two things I'm going to offer you here are kind of linked. The first one is, as we were saying, the more and more you can get clear on who you are, what you're a no to, what you're a yes to, that starts to form this like holy grail of boundaries. When you know what you're up for, when you know you're available from what you're not, that becomes a boundary. And that's not something you have to kind of set out and like decide, and that's my boundary forevermore. This can become much more a moment-to-moment thing. The more you're able to stay true to who you are, true to your values, those boundaries will be obvious. They'll be there present for you moment to moment. And so it's so much easier then. And I'll go back to the example of me laying in bed. In fact, if anyone's ever been a visitor to my house and wondered why I stay in bed in the morning, here you go. Here's the secret scoop on that. But that's an example. You know, for me, that, I guess, is a boundary, really. I'm not saying I would never cross that boundary. You know, there may be sometimes a good reason why I would kind of wake up and get straight out of bed. But in general, that's a boundary for me. You know, like it's just not something I'm available for, to get up really suddenly without first being able to, you know, really wake up in my own time, feel into my body, feel what's good for me, and then get up. That's a boundary. So you'll have your own. They're likely to be very different to mine. Our boundaries are usually unique to us and also unique to kind of where we are on our journey. Mine have changed over the years. So first of all, get clear on your boundaries. And again, moment to moment, not get clear forevermore. And part of that sounds like a bloody no-brainer, but is just so needed, is to notice the places that you could actually just ask for help. And so that could be because it's a boundary. You know what? I'm not available for this. So therefore, someone else is going to need to help me with it. It could just be noticing, like, again, from this place of being in shadow, we're going to think, I need to do everything to keep everyone happy with me, everyone liking me. The more and more you notice that comes with a real cost to who you are and your deeper values, the more available you will be to asking other people to help. You won't feel this need to keep doing it all. So just watch out for that. Watch out for those opportunities where you could actually be asking for help and receiving help, because it actually is in deeper alignment with who you are than to just do it all yourself. So let me just take a breather, make sure I've covered everything I wanted to cover. I think I have. So just I mentioned as I started talking about this topic about sort of other ways to deepen into this sense of who you are. And I would have mentioned these plenty of times before, but they're always worth just refreshing our minds about. So firstly, any form of writing for inquiry, that could be morning pages, journaling, writing to a specific question. I did a podcast with a brilliant chap called Mark Matusek, and I've linked to that episode loads of times. So it's coming up with a particular question and an example of what I was just talking about, like kind of complaints and desires. That could be a brilliant one for you. Like the question could simply be, what are my complaints about the Christmas period? So allow yourself to just be in this very open space to write. Don't do it from a kind of headspace. Do it from a kind of just get the words down, whatever they are, no judgment, just allow it to flow. Another really, really powerful practice that I always give to my clients, both one-to-one clients and when I work with them in Wake the Wild Feminine, is body-led movement. Allowing your body, like it sets a container of time, 10 minutes is a great start, and just allow your body to move how it needs to move, wants to move. And this is just a beautiful practice to, again, get more familiar with yourself, get more familiar with your body, what's going on for it. And then, of course, finding a way to get reflections from others. There's always going to be things in our blind spots. And almost by its definition, anything in shadow isn't our blind spot. So that could be working with a coach, joining a circle. And again, a circle of men or women that specifically includes that aspect where you're going to get some form of inquiry and reflection. It's very much a component of Waking the Wild Feminine and Waking the Wild Masculine, because we so see the power of that. To just ways, and it could be that you've just got a brilliant friend who you can create that kind of agreement with, that you'll provide that reflection to each other. So lots and lots of ways of doing that. Another thing that, again, it's probably easier to do this if you can be guided through it by someone else, but it absolutely can be done on your own, which is the exercise I spoke to Adam Quiney about first time I think he came on the show. I'll find the link to that and add it, but it's about discovering, he calls it your essence, and who knows exactly what that is. More and more I see that probably is an expression of your soul. So there's an exercise you can go through which involves getting feedback from other people and then distilling it into 5 words. Really, really powerful exercise. It's something I take all my clients through. It's just like incredibly powerful, way beyond any kind of like personality test or anything like that. So worth doing. I think that's everything. There's lots of other things you can do, but they're probably like the main ones I would suggest to start out with. So, right, time to wrap up. if you are interested in listening to more of this kind of thing, I do a show like this every month. And then in between, I do interviews with all kinds of amazing experts on a range of topics from embodiment, parenting, intimacy, self-discovery, you name it. And that's at primalhappiness.co/podcast. Come join our group if you want to meet like-minded people on this journey. And that's at facebook.com/groups/primalhappiness. And of course, if you would like to look at how you could work with myself and Jonathan. So as I mentioned, the next thing we've got coming up is Waking the World's Sovereign. And that will be released in probably the next week or so. But again, if you want to, there's nothing yet on the website about it. But if you go to our Go Deeper page, which is primalhappiness.co/go deeper, there's buttons there where you can book a free exploration call with one of us. So if you want to just book that in, get a conversation in the diary with us, you can go and do that now, even though there's nothing on the website about Wake the Wild Sovereign yet. Also, other stuff that's coming up next. I don't think we'll be doing a Waking the Wild Feminine or Masculine until probably towards the middle of next year, I'd say. Reason being is at the moment, our sense is we want to do something that's like co-ed, so for men and women, and we'll be co-leading it. Some kind of circle, again, some kind of group coaching circle. It doesn't even have a name yet, but that's what we're feeling called to do next. So we'll be having Wake the Wild Sovereign come in the next week or so. And then at some point early, I think in the new year, we'll have this, whatever is this new circle that's going to be created next. So if you want to know more about that, just obviously stay tuned, book in an exploration call if that feels right to you. And I'll just share more as it comes. Thank you so much if you've joined me live on Facebook, if you're watching the replay or you're listening to this on the podcast. So appreciate you and your presence. Lots of love to you. Have a wonderful weekend. Mwah. Bye-bye. So we're done for this month. Are you feeling inspired to be more in alignment with yourself now this Christmas? If so, I'd really love to know how you're getting on. Are you finding that you're able to be clearer on what your body's calling for? Are you feeling more able to express your boundaries? I'd love to know how you're getting on. And the best place to do that is the Primal Happiness Facebook group. The link for that is at facebook.com/group/primalhappiness. I'd also just love to have your feedback, questions, topic suggestions, and the group is the best place to post those to. And as I mentioned earlier, we've got Waking the Wild Sovereign opening for enrollment this week. It is going to be gorgeous. Really, really is. The most powerful way that you can work with us. So more details on that coming out in the next day or so. But if you know that you want to be one of the first to know, book a free exploration call with myself or Jonathan. And that's at primalhappiness.co/exploration. Or drop us an email at support@primalhappiness.co. Let us know you're interested and you'll get all the details as soon as they're ready, which again, be the next day or so. And of course, if you'd like to join me live for the next show, you'd be very welcome. Just like our Facebook page, and that's facebook.com/primalhappiness. And watch out for the show airing live first Friday of every month at 10 a.m. GMT. I'm normally, if I'm honest, about 10 minutes late. So if you get there at 10 a.m. and I'm not there, just hold on and I will be there very soon. If you'd like to get the notes and get links for everything we spoke about this week, hop on over to the show notes and they're at primalhappiness.co/episode 263. If you don't want to miss out next week's episode, head on over to Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, or your Android or iOS app of choice and hit that subscribe button. That way you're going to get each episode magically straight to your device as soon as it's released. Thank you so much for listening. You've been wonderful. Catch you again next Tuesday.